of Nuestra Señora de los Dolores, also known as Cañón, is a small traditional northern New Mexico village located within the Taos Valley, nestled at the base of the Sangre de Cristos. The culture and traditions are tied to the land and acequias carried on by generations of families who inhabited the region for hundreds of years. Prior to Hispanic occupation, it was inhabited by descendants of Taos Pueblo, as evidenced by their footprints upon the landscape. The census of 1796 lists Nuestra Señora de los Dolores as a placita in the Taos Valley. Today, the village of Cañón is a place of querencia for many people in the Taos Valley, including my family on both sides of my maternal line. This is a story of some of the people from Cañón, my antepasados. This story begins with my mother, Ana Maria Montoya. My mother was born in 1848 to Ernesto and Laura Montoya. My mother grew up in Cañón and lived next to her maternal grandparents, as well as several other extended Lucero family members in the village until she got married. Throughout my lifetime, my mother has been a source of oro de barrio concerning my antepasados. Los Luceros de Cañón were closely tied to the land, their faith, and family. My Lucero line in Cañón begins with my grandmother, Laura Cecilia Lucero. My grandmother's parents were Maximiliano and Emelina Lucero. My mother recalls that her grandfather would greet the morning sun with a alva every morning before he set a hoe to the ground. Her grandfather and his father were men of service to their community and their faith by being comiciandos or hermano penitentes. My mother's grandmother, Emelina, was also active in community religious life and prayed the rosary daily. Her grandparents' devotion to their faith would be tested when their firstborn son, Gustavo, enlisted in World War II and went to the Pacific with the infamous 200th Coast Artillery. Gustavo survived the Bataan Death March but would die of dysentery in a POW camp in the Philippines, only to be buried in a mass trench. I can only imagine the prayers and songs that were uttered by my great-grandparents during this period. My Tío Gustavo's remains would later be returned to his place of querencia at the request of his parents and tenderly laid to rest with his antepasados in the mountains overlooking the village. My great-grandmother, as well as other mothers, helped to erect a memorial in the Taos Plaza that bears witness to their sons' sacrifices. This devotion to one's village and family were passed down to their daughter, Laura, my grandmother. My grandmother was always thinking of people. Always resourceful with what she had around her, she repurposed metal juice cans into stools with a knitted cover for her grandkids, made Christmas ornaments out of metal lard can lids, and knitted colorful mantels to be given away. My grandmother was also known for taking care of her family members who passed away. She planted many lirios around both the Catholic and Protestant cemeteries and took fresh blossoms and wildflowers to her vecinos and family members' graves every spring. Even in death, she did not forget you. Like Los Luceros, Los Montoyas de Cañón were also closely tied to the land, their faith, and family. My Montoya line in Cañón begins with my grandfather, Ernesto Montoya. My grandfather was born in 1918 to José Vidal and Zoraya Montoya, and they lived within the outer edge of Cañón. My grandfather was a man of adobe, remedios, cuentos, and música. My grandfather was also the storyteller of the family. I grew up listening to his stories about brujas, owls, La Llorona, and dancing fireballs in the Cañón arroyos. He also was a knowledgeable folk musician and played the guitar, mandolin, and violin. He played with numerous groups throughout his lifetime, but was most proud of playing with Los Alegres de Taos. His group made a concentrated effort to perform and preserve Hispano folk music and dance by writing down the music and dance steps and recording the songs. This is my grandfather playing one of the Machachines songs on his guitar. While my immediate family may not live in Cañón anymore, I am still tied to my antepasados in so many ways. When I make Christmas ornaments out of old metal lids, I'm reminded of my grandmother. When I pick up my violin or cello, I'm reminded of my grandfather. When I set my hands and shovel into the earth, I'm reminded of my great-grandparents. My mother has always been an inspiration to me when it comes to caring and honoring one's ancestors. As we prepare as a family this May to go honor and respect my ancestors, where they were laid to rest in the foothills of Cañon, by cleaning their place of rest and bringing cans filled with sacred acequia water and chokecherry blossoms, I'm reminded of this wisdom my mother told me.
Pay respect to them. Make them feel that they're loved.